Peace, profound, and personal power. What's up, my friends? My name is DMike, and welcome to the Soul Ascension Show, where we bring you the teachers, healers, thinkers, and feelers that will be able to provide you with the information and inspiration to help you ascend your life to the next level. Today, we have the amazing opportunity to welcome to the show one of the titans in Kansas City, just alternative medicine, chiropractic, and just the alternative lifestyle in general. And he's got a great story, and I really love talking to people that have overcome obstacles and help share that with the world. And we will get into that story really quickly, but first, if you guys could help me welcome to the show, Dr. Benjamin Chambers. Thanks a lot, really appreciate it.
Oh, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here.
Great,
Yeah.
thanks a lot. So let's dive right in. And so I like talking to the people who, as I was talking about earlier, they've had challenges or obstacles in their life, and against convention, they've found sort of alternative ways to overcome those. And not only that, but then you kind of bottle that up and you share that. You really help find your place as a healer in the world, and you kind of share that information to help heal the world. So I want to kind of get into that. If we could talk about maybe some of your early life. Like did you have like sort of an awakening experience, or what was it like growing up?
Yes, it's a great question, because what I've seen as a patient and then as a practitioner is a lot of people are lost. And they're looking for these people within the medical world or otherwise to help to guide them. And then they're told that there's really no solutions to their problems, or that it's in their head, or that they're just sick. So I was a child who was cared for by my parents, who were very loving. But within a month of being alive, they took me off of breast milk because the doctors told them not to breastfeed, use bottle feed. I was on antibiotics for the first year of my life. I had digestive issues, I had sinus issues for most of my childhood. The doctor said, he's just one of those kids who gets sick.
Okay.
Yeah, just like it's random luck of the draw. Yeah. What are we going to do? Right?
It's a crapshoot.
Crapshoot, yeah, and I felt that way. A lot of people feel like they've lost a genetic lottery. Like they just struck out. And they don't realize the environment's playing a huge role. So 18, 19, and 20, I'm doing what a lot of kids do. Smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, consciousness shifting on that front. I'm consuming uppers to be able to function. I'm taking downers to sleep. And I have a major meltdown and crash at the age of 21. And I go to the doctors, I go to the immunologist, I go to all these specialists, and they say, we don't know what it is. And you've got neutropenia. What does that mean? Low neutrophil count. What does that mean? We don't know what it means.
Okay.
But I was finding chronic infections. They didn't know why. So I said to the doctors, what do I do? And they said, you live with it.
Just accept your fate.
Right. Here's a pamphlet. And so I went to the specialist, and this is a seminal moment in my life. I went to the specialist, and there was a guy in the waiting room who was my mirror at that moment. He said to me, I've been doing this for 20 years now. I live in my mom's basement. It's not that bad. You can eke out an existence. And I remember this thing shouting in my soul, not me, not me. So I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew that I was not going to follow the same path as this guy.
So he had the same diagnosis?
He had chronic fatigue as well, and he was seeing this immunologist, the specialist. Not to denigrate this person, but that's just a statement of fact. And if you walked into his office, like walking into a morgue. There was no one living in there. And realizing now why I felt so cold and so indifferent, because I've always been empathic. I've always felt my environment. I think we all do. But we shut ourselves off from it. And we disconnect from our reality. And so we look for something to consciousness shift so we don't have to feel. So we consume the caffeine, the alcohol, and other substances so we can shut off our feeling centers. So this guy was me 20 years from now if I would have followed that path. And I recognized that at the time. But I really had no trajectory. I just knew I was not going to go that route.
It's not that.
No, it wasn't. It was a dead end. It wasn't living.
And were the doctors kind of saying the same thing? Just you have to deal with it? Or?
Well, that's what they say. I mean, you name a condition. I have patients who come in with rheumatoid arthritis who were diagnosed 15 or 20 years ago. Now, there are medical doctors talking about ways to actually heal and ameliorate this condition. And people will just live with it until their joints fuse, until their neck fuses, until their body is broken. And to me, that is unconscionable. When we have research in PubMed, and we have medical doctors who are doing this right now, but we're keeping it suppressed for some reason. And
Why do you think that is?
Well, I have my theories.
Okay.
My theory is this. Let's say you come in as a chiropractic patient, and I'm working on you. And I say, DMike, you got these back issues, right? And thank God you found me. But you got to see me 3 times a week for the next 6 weeks. All right? Thank God you found me. And then we're going to do 2 times a week. I'm going to see you once a week for the next year and a half. If you don't do that, you're never going to get better. You need me to get better.
And that's the authority, so that's what I'm taking as gospel.
Absolutely. People believe it because the mind's very powerful. But at no point have I empowered you to heal yourself. I've created this relationship of command. You know, and as patient doctor, it's like this ownership thing. But the worst thing you can do as a doctor, I think, oftentimes, is to relegate someone as a patient, because patient means broken, and doctor really means teacher. So if I'm being a doctor and teaching people how to take care of themselves, but I don't look at them as broken. So this specialist saw me as broken and unfixable, and I believed him for a moment. But when I saw this guy in the waiting room, I realized I will remain broken as long as I work with this person. So I started going to quacks. I started seeing naturopaths. I started seing chiropractors.
Quacks, you said? Okay.
Well, yeah, because you know what's funny is if you look at like Hippocrates, for instance, you said primum non nocere, which means first do no harm.
Do no harm.
Yeah, food is medicine. Medicine is food. Things along those lines. This is 2,500 years ago, give or take, right? And we've forgotten it. And we don't recognize the body is an organism that's made to heal itself. Now, there's 2 different archetypal ways of looking at the body, which I think is interesting. We look at it like either as a robot or a machine. We look at it as a garden. And in the West, we tend to look at it as a machine. Right. You know, what do we need to remove? You know, how do we need to tinker with this? Oh, your gallbladder's not working.
Let's get it out of there.
Right. Oh, we got a faulty gallbladder. Or they believe for the longest time that the appendix was vestigial.
Right.
And now we know it's secondary lymphoid tissue that is actually a storage point for beneficial bacteria.
Really?
Yes, it's actually there for a purpose. Biology is an economy of resources. Why would you produce something that doesn't need to be there? That's insane.
Right, because it's very efficient. So if it's not going to waste a bunch of energy creating something that you no longer need.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I mean, and the crazy thing. So let's take someone who's sick, has no energy. Their body physiologically is trying to do everything it can to maintain homeostasis or balance. So of course they have no energy. Of course they don't feel good. Of course their joints hurt because their body doesn't care about their joints or how they feel. It cares about keeping the heart beating and the liver functioning and the brain firing. So it will use what limited resources it has to keep itself alive. And when you give the body the tools it needs, the body turns on, you feel good, you feel alive again. So a little bit more about the story. I then started seeing quacks, like I mentioned before. I say that humorously, but that's still looked upon. You go on Wikipedia, chiropractors, naturopaths, or otherwise are very much vilified.
We've talked to people who have similar sentiments.
Oh, right. Right. I mean, and it's a shame, really, because there's good and bad in every field. But the people that gave me hope, and hope is one of the most important things you can give to someone, to tell someone you're not broken. You can heal yourself. There's no reason if we give you the tools that you need, there's no reason you can't run those tools and then not need me anymore.
And that's really important because whatever you tell yourself, the words that you're saying, your body responds to that.
Right.
And so if you're telling yourself like there's no hope, and that's what you're being told by the authority who you have absolute faith in, then your body's going to be like, okay, well, you've said it, so so then that's the truth.
Well, the quintessential example, and you guys have heard of this before, but the person who's given the wrong diagnosis. Got 6 months to live, sorry. Right. At autopsy, they open them up. They didn't have that condition after all, but they believed it. And belief is really that powerful. You can think yourself healthy and you can think yourself sick. And that gets into so many other different facets, but I took from other practitioners. Now the doctors I saw, the naturopaths, chiropractors, or otherwise, they gave me little nuggets, but they didn't really put it all together. I think we're starting to see it all put together. My belief is that 70 to 80% of it is mental, emotional, psychospiritual.
Well, so mental, emotional, psychospiritual.
Psychospiritual.
Okay.
Yeah, all those facets together, mental, emotional, and psychospiritual. Okay. The 30% that remains is your physiology, and then genetics. We know about epigenetics as well. Epigenetics is really the signaling from your environment of the expression of the gene. Bruce Lipton famously said, why is it that 51% or more of women who have the BRCA gene, breast cancer gene, why is it that they don't get breast cancer? I mean, if it's a fait accompli that they are going to get breast cancer because of the genes, why aren't they getting it?
And most of them aren't then. So
most of them aren't. The majority of them are not because the environment is not expressing it. Moreover, why does it happen when it happens? If it's genetic, why doesn't it happen when they're 2? Or why does it happen later on in life? Is what I'm saying. It's because environmentally it's shifted. So let's take the example of the cancer patient. This is the thing that floors me. Patients come in and they say, I've been blindsided with a cancer diagnosis. Well, let's go back a little bit and try to figure this out. How were in the case of female reproductive, how were your cycles as a teenager? Oh, they were terrible. What did they do? They put me on birth control. They wanted to do DNC. I had endometriosis. I had PCOS. I had fertility issues. And then they let that go for 10, 20, 30 years. And then they're shocked when they get cancer. And so one of my favorite quotes, this is from Machiavelli, this is like 500 years old. I mean, that's how old this information is, and it's all new and novel to us.
It's kind of refurbished, reborn.
It's reborn because we've forgotten. And I actually think that we've actually fallen asleep, and we've been subverted for a reason. And I think that much of this is not a conspiracy, but control. To control people, you tell them that they have no power. You strip that away from them, and then they believe what they're told. There's a quote from Vladimir Lenin, of all people. I'm not a socialist, but he said, a lie told enough times becomes the truth. And when people hear a lie enough times, they believe it. And when they hear the truth, they think it's a lie.
So do you think this moment, whenever you saw this other patient that had the same diagnosis, because you mentioned that you feel like we've fallen asleep as a collective.
We have.
So do you think that kind of inspired you to sort of awaken, sort of? Or do you feel like you already were? Or
Well, I wasn't. And the thing is, I can tell you stories like when I was younger, I felt the presence of things around me. I meet a lot of people who have what they call like supernatural experiences. And we're told to ignore them. Or that you're just crazy or just seeing things.
Right.
Some of the work I've gotten into, I think, disproves it in my life, but experience is our greatest adversary or nemesis or teacher. And the lack of experience for many people actually keeps them in that place. But the same token, if you aren't willing to see things, you aren't willing to see things.
Yeah.
So was he the point? No, there were many points along the way. But we have those points within our life where we just say, I can't continue living along these lines. I refuse to live life on these principles. And it forces us then, like Eric that you were interviewing before, Eric Ewing, he was given the diagnosis, he was given a trajectory, he was told what to do. Right. And it did not ring true to him. Now, the amazing thing about that is when it doesn't ring true, you actually begin to connect to your heart. And you begin to connect to truth in general. And then you begin to connect to these guiding principles inside you. And then when you hear something that's false, it hurts your body. It causes you fatigue. It just is this cacophony inside of you. But when you actually hear the truth, it causes your body to light up. You breathe, inspire because you're inspired.
Awesome.
And you come to life.
This is also sort of like the infinite wisdom of the body.
Right.
And so is that a lot, because I was looking at your service and it said something about like muscle testing and things like that. In fact, the person that I interviewed before, they were talking about picking up a food or to see if it's going to be good for you and seeing how your body sort of responds to it.
Oh, right.
Is that something that you sort of incorporate?
I do incorporate that. What I would hasten to say, though, is that muscle testing is, in my opinion, of value.
Okay.
But so is a physical examination, and so is a consultation, and so is talking to somebody.
Right.
I've had people who muscle test me who have preconceived notions.
Okay.
And so they're kind of putting a field upon the individual. So it does not take away our own ability to sense. Okay. But if you come in and you're like, I'm having low back pain, and you have other issues going on, I'm trying to find an anti-inflammatory supplement to help you with it, then muscle testing can be of value. Because I'm thinking, I touch your back, I feel inflammation, you're complaining about inflammation elsewhere in your body. Clearly inflammation's at play, but what is the right agent for you? And that's what I use muscle testing for. Sometimes I'll find that I'm drawn in a different direction. But I use it not as the whole thing, but as, and then sometimes when you're working with someone, it's crazy, but you'll just have this thing shouting at you. Give them this. And that's what I'm beginning to trust, is just that inner voice that says, this is the answer. Because when we don't listen to that voice, I think we end up getting, I've been calling it God smacked.
Okay.
But it's where you go down a path and you stumble, and it's like, I didn't need to stumble. I was thinking about doing this and I didn't do it, and I didn't trust my instinct. A funny example, there was a guy that was teaching me recently at a seminar, and he said, I really felt instinctively to take a different path to work, but I thought, I'm not going to follow my instinct. I don't want to. So he's in Boston, and it was kind of a cold morning. There was not a lot of precipitation on the ground. There was shade, though. And so the exit he normally gets off of, shade patch, is what he hit. His car skids out and does a 360, and in the midst of it, he has this moment of clarity where he's like, okay, I'm listening now, I'm listening.
I got it.
And then the car settled back, and the car behind him spun out and went into a ditch.
Wow.
And it's almost like saying, when are you going to listen?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it'll tap you on the shoulder until eventually it's going to smack you. You're going to get Godsmack.
Right.
So do you feel like this experience sort of helped you to start listening to yourself? And are these some of the things that you found when you were going to see the quacks? Were you starting to listen to yourself, and that's where you were
I take offense to that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're saying that they're telling you different things, and so did you sort of glean out the things that were going to work for you, and did you develop that into your practice that you're able to share with people?
I think stated another way, let's say hypothetically speaking that you believe stones are powerful and helpful,
Okay.
right? But you just started to believe that they're powerful and helpful now, all right?
Okay.
You're going to walk around in your environment, you're going to see them everywhere. But if you're not attuned to it, you're not going to see them at all. So maybe the practitioners I was seeing were giving me all the tools I needed, but maybe I wasn't ready to receive them yet. So I think I gleaned what I could glean at the time. It's like I heard it said metaphorically before. If God exposed himself to you in a state where you were unready to see his or her presence, whatever you want to pronoun you want to affix, it would shock you into a state of insanity. So we recognize truth when we can recognize truth, and we receive knowledge when we receive knowledge. It's that saying, when the teacher is ready, the student appears.
Okay.
Right, and when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Right.
But that's really, and that's, as a practitioner, that's what I've been honoring lately. I have answers for people. If people follow what I recommended for them, they will get better rapidly. But sometimes they're not getting better because there's a lesson they need to learn, or an experience they need to have.
Okay.
And to strip that away from someone is actually to strip away, I think, the soul's journey within life.
Right.
Which is actually
the point.
That's the point.
Okay.
So I would actually say I got precisely what I needed at that moment and nothing more.
Sure. So you got the correct breadcrumbs, and so you would start to follow them.
Yeah.
And so how did that lead to you actually being able to overcome illness and the diagnosis and just, you know, being relegated to, you're going to be in your house or whatever, live in your mom's basement forever?
Getting Godsmacked a second.
Okay.
Yeah, so at 28, I was getting close to graduating from chiropractic school. I started drinking, not heavily, but once a week again. I started eating pizza and things along those lines. I was in my mind all the time, thinking. I didn't learn how to meditate till I was 33. So at 30, I start my practice, and I'm getting things going. But you can't live your life with closed hands. So I was gripping and attaching to everything. You know, the Buddhist principle of suffering is due to attachment. I was attaching to everything. I was trying to control my world. But I could still manifest. So my business was getting going. I was worried, I have to get it going. I can't not have this. This is my dream. And so I get myself positioned on Google, and I got on the number one on Google for my business within a month of having it open. I gamed the system. I did search engine optimization, but I was working crazy hours. I was getting 5 hours sleep. I was pushing my body down its limits. And here's the thing. September, October of that year, I was seeing about 6 to 7 new patients a week without taking insurance, getting it strictly from Google. I was rolling, but I was too sick to heal them and treat them.
You were too sick.
I was too sick to heal them. And so I had to shut my practice down, and I had to let it all go. And month after month, and my office was still open, but I was not there, and I was still paying rent. And month after month, I was sitting there I cried for I cried for 6 months straight. And I was suffering and digging a hole. And in the midst of that, I recognized I couldn't hold on. I had to let go. That I was going to continue to dig as long as I was attaching to things. But that idea before that I had to control my environment and everything. So the irony was I had a nervous breakdown at 30. I'll be 40 in about a week. I had a nervous breakdown at 30. And then I started seeing other quacks. And one doctor I saw, I spent $5,000 there in the course of 3 months. And I learned what practitioner I didn't want to be. And then I learned the tools I needed to be to actually heal myself again. Only this time I didn't forget what brought me there. And then I learned meditation. And I learned the pieces I needed to learn through my own suffering. But then I also recognized what led me to it in the first place. And then I was very thankful that I suffered the way that I did, because suffering, as Dostoevsky said, suffering is the origin of consciousness. And to strip that away from somebody is to strip away their ability to grow and shift and change.
I love that idea about the cancer sort of from my first interview, you know, cancer showing you the way to sort of beat it, or the answer being within the question or the problem, and then being able to embrace it and integrate it in that way in order to be able to propel your life forward.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
But we turn people into children of men when we strip away their authority to heal themselves. So when we give them a pill to fix themselves, or something outside of themselves to fix it,
they're dependent upon it.
And they never grow. We become children of men.
Children of men.
Right.
Very interesting.
And the thing is, that's what I see with patients. They're disempowered and they become stuck within their life. But then the healer, in my opinion, and I don't consider myself a healer, the healer is actually the inner workings of the person you're working with. I'm a facilitator. I'm a conduit. I'm somebody that is actually directing growth within an individual. I'm the stop sign pointing you that there's a detour over here. That's all I'm doing. I'm a mirror reflecting back. There's an analogy I tell patients. I tell them, you are the mountain and I am the valley. And I can see your peaks and your troughs. And I can see your high points and your low points, but you can't see it because you're living it. And because I have perspective to look at you at a distance, I can tell you where your low points are, and I can help to guide you along the way. And then you won't need me anymore.
That's phenomenal. And I think that's a key point, because that is not, as we were kind of touching on this earlier, that's not how Western medicine doctors kind of operate. They're not like, I don't want you to need me anymore. They want to keep you, counting on them forever. And so they're not actually trying to heal you. They're really trying to give you the patient status, as you were talking about.
But they're not bad people either. I don't mean to vilify them.
Definitely.
But you consider from their perspective, just for a moment, you have a staff of maybe 2 or 3 people behind the desk. You're billing for insurance. Insurance is saying you've got to see someone every 5 to 10 minutes to actually make profit. The 2 or 3 people you have behind the desk, you're paying $60,000 to $90,000 a year. You have to hustle. You have to see someone every 3 to 5 minutes. So you are a cog in a machine. Meanwhile, because of the standard of care and because of your limitations of your license, they can't practice the way they want to. If they want to take Medicare, they cannot prescribe outside of their scope. So if they're saying, I want to give you a new diet, I want you to take this supplement to help with that, then they're practicing medicine incorrectly from their perspective. They are handcuffed. And you're seeing some medical doctors move into the functional medical realm so they can have control again. But as long as they are in that, they are fastened to that system. They have no control. And in a way, I don't take pity upon them, but I feel like they're hamstrung. Meanwhile, we live in a very fear-based society. So I thought about this when I was first in practice. The people I was getting better very quickly, and there were many people that were getting better very quickly before I was even learning some of these things, they were my worst patients. Because they weren't coming back.
Oh,
they weren't
okay.
coming back.
Right.
And the thing is, from that fear-based model, which then that fear begets the fear, you believe you're not going to be able to drive your money unless you keep somebody stuck in that position, you will actually cause someone to stay in that role. And you will create these defined roles within there, out of fear. Out of fear of not having enough money, out of fear of scarcity. I don't live by that principle anymore. I don't advertise. I don't take insurance. I am strictly word of mouth. I advertise a little bit for my events on Facebook. But I don't have to advertise, because if I touch you in some way, then you're going to tell everyone you know. And I'm going to grow.
It's a more organic reach.
I say this like a pull string. Every new patient who comes in, I say, my best patients are the ones who don't listen to me, because they come in all the time. My worst patients are the ones who listen. And my role as a practitioner my goal is, I can run my practice 2 different ways. I can see you all the time, or I can see more people fewer times. If you refer all of your friends and your family and people that you know to me, and I see them a couple times a year, I will grow a very thriving practice, and I will make very good money.
And that's a good business model for you, and it's good healing for the people that you see.
Right. So. And then my impact and my influence is actually, which is not my impact or my influence. I don't believe that at all. What I believe is, you've ignited a spark within me, and I've ignited a spark within you. And that spark that you ignited with me lives within me. Wow. And then I light a spark within you. And then I cause that to grow within the world. Wow. So, yes, I'm actually duplicating myself, but someone duplicated themselves into me. And I'm causing that to reverberate throughout the world. So if I want to see the world change, I don't become a Republican or Democrat. I do an active sedition. I love people who come into my world. I help them. I empower them. And then they empower someone else. And then the world really does change.
That's beautiful. I really love that concept. What do you think is probably the biggest issue that people come in to see you?
Oh, it's funny because, let me just kind of give you the quintessential person who comes in, all right? They're working a job they hate, They're anxious, their mind's racing all the time. They're fatigued, especially in the afternoon, 2 to 5 or 3 to 5, they're wiped out. That's when I tell them the savages in the world, the savages, they take naps and they take breaks. Thankfully, we have, this modernity that we live in now, so we don't have to take naps. We'll just consume caffeine and uppers so they can make it through. They don't sleep at night. They have fractured relationships. They have broken communities. And that's the quintessential person I see. Now, I don't mean to be doom and gloom, but have you guys ever heard of Rat Park before?
Rat Park?
Rat Park.
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm borrowing this from Johan Hari. Okay. He wrote Lost Connections, and he also wrote Chasing the Scream, a book on depression and a book on addiction. Phenomenal writings. But he said Rat Park. So we talk about, I'm going tangentially now, but we talk about a rat in a cage. And you put water bottle on one side and you put cocaine water, heroin water on the other side. Now what happens almost every time is the rat overdoses. So as an empiricist, as a scientist, you say, well, clearly that's so addictive that it kills them. But you take that rat and you put them into Rat Park. And Rat Park is with other rats, a community. And they have the food that they want, and they have toys they can play with. And they have something that they can engage with. They feel a connection, they feel what it is like to be a rat, for whatever that's worth.
Okay.
And you put the cocaine water, the heroin water in there, what happens? They might consume a little bit, but they don't overdose.
Really?
No, because they're not trying to escape. They're not trying to shift their consciousness because their state is so miserable that they have to shift. So if someone's coming in and they're consuming caffeine, sugar, alcohol, they're gambling, they're addicted to pornography or otherwise, they're doing so because they're shifting their consciousness because they cannot stay in the world that they're in. It's too miserable for them.
Okay.
So until we form strong communities and feed people real food and get people connected to one another again, and not factionalized, because as long as we're factionalized, we are controlled by medical industry, by politics, or otherwise. We're controlled. Like I said before, you come in my office and I say, DMike, back's a mess. Thank God you found me. 3 times a week for the next 6 years. All right? Sound good? And then maybe you won't be paralyzed later on in life. I had patients that come into me and they say, I know you can't help me. I was diagnosed with arthritis. I say, that is ridiculous. Do you know what arthritis means? Arth means joint. Itis means inflammation of. It means you have inflammation of your joints. Are we talking osteoarthritis? Are we talking about an autoimmune condition like rheumatoid arthritis? All those conditions, by the way, too, if you follow the function of medical doctors and look at the peer-reviewed medical research, is reversible.
But they don't think that it's not even an option to them. They just think, I've got arthritis and there's nothing you can do. Well,
let's start the interview over again. So you shake my hand. I'm going to introduce myself to you as I would have at the age of 21. All right?
Okay.
So it's a pleasure to meet you, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm chronic fatigue syndrome. Very nice to meet you.
All right.
I've been sick my whole life. I was thankfully diagnosed at 21. I have this condition that causes me to feel tired all the time. This is the people I'm meeting. Hi, I'm fibromyalgia.
They're identifying.
Yes, and that's a field that they're putting around themselves, a field of limited possibilities, a field of blocked mental emotional states. It's like Henry Ford said, even though he was not maybe the best person in the world, he said, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right.
It's true, right.
And so people, before they even stepped into it, but going even a step further, I had a patient who came in about a month ago, and I've been telling this story to patients and anyone who will listen because this is fascinating to me because I did nothing with her. But what I said to her was, she comes in and she said, I just want to get in my car and drive away. I want to escape. I'm so miserable. I hate my existence. I'm 61 years old. I'm working a job I hate. I have no community. I have no husband or partner. I have no money. I can't breathe. My back hurts. So I said, stop. Close your eyes for a second. Let's go to a different reality. And just imagine the world you want to live in, as though you can live it. Now, don't imagine you can sprout wings and fly, but just imagine the world you want to step into. And just live that for a second. What does it look like? Maybe you have a partner. Maybe you're traveling around the world. Maybe you have a different job. Maybe you have more money in your account. Maybe it's just something simple. So I watched something unfold. She's sitting across from me. I'm not doing anything with her at that point. And I just watch her soften. And I watch her breathe. And about 2.5 minutes into it, I said to her, do you have any pain right now? And she said, no, I have no pain.
Wow.
And I said,
just from visualization.
It's a different reality, though.
Wow.
The reality she's in right now is a straitjacket.
So you're telling me that you can actually go to a different reality?
Why not? Why not? Pay attention the next time you get angry. Pay attention to how you're breathing. You won't be breathing. You'll be breathing shallow. Taking a step further, because people don't believe in energy, and they don't have to.
Okay.
But I tell patients about thermographic scanning. It's where they measure heat on the body.
Right.
And I've said this a million times. But why do we call angry people hotheads? It's because the energy rises, and if you thermographically scan their body when they're angry, what are you going to see? Heat in their head. And someone who's depressed, we say they have a case of the blues. Thermographically scanning them, what happens? Coldness all throughout the body. They are frigid, they are ice cold. Blue because they're cold. And in those states, people have cold hands and cold feet. Take it a step further. Someone who is in a state of love and joy. Boy, that person was so warm. Thermographically scanning, what do you see? A heat distribution that's equal and equivalent all throughout the body.
Wow.
Where the body is equally temperature controlled throughout. So when I lead meditation, I've seen some really interesting things. But one thing I've seen currently is people who come in with anxiety with their cold hands and cold feet. They meditate, and then at the end of it, they'll say, I have circulation in my hands. Or I don't have any pain in my body right now. That's happened a lot lately. Or my hands and feet are warm. How did that happen? Well, let's just talk physiology for a second, because if you're relaxed, your vessels are not going to be vasoconstricted. All right? They're going to be vasodilated. There's a technique you can do called 4-7-8 breathing. You breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold for 7 seconds, you breathe out for 8 seconds.
Okay.
And that exercises your parasympathetic nervous system to relax your body and open up your vessels. That can drop your blood pressure by 15 to 20 points or more. I had a lady who called me up years ago and she said, my blood pressure's high. And she was in a panic state. And I said, for 5 minutes, I want you to breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 7 seconds, breathe out for 8 seconds.
It's 4-7-8.
4-7-8.
Okay.
4-7-8. I stole that from Dr. Andrew Weil, and you can find his videos online. He's got some great information. I agree with a lot of what he has to say. Not everything, but I agree with a lot of what he says. And she messaged me 5 minutes later, and she said my blood pressure dropped 20 points.
Wow.
Now what we do there, she was stressed and she was panicking, so she's breathing in a state that would constrict her vessels. Your body's not stupid. If your blood pressure is elevated, it's because blood cannot get to a place it needs to go.
Okay.
All right? It's not your body being stupid. It's everything around your body being stupid.
Yeah.
Okay?
But I really like, because a lot of quacks, as you say.
Sure. I'm still offended.
Okay. Your words, not mine. But so there might be somebody who's watching this and they're just like, okay, I'm sick and you're telling me that I'm supposed to sit with my eyes closed and it's going to help me heal.
Sure.
So what would you say to somebody, like, what's actually, like, how does that tie in the meditation to actually getting you prepared to be able to receive some healing, or what's actually going on?
Did you guys ever hear of Dan Harris before? Dan Harris, the CBS news anchor. He had a panic attack on the air. He was delivering the news report, and he just went white, and he had to cut,
Yeah.
He couldn't deliver the news at that point. This is nationwide. This is not like a CBS affiliate. This is CBS Evening News that he had this. So why I mention him is he actually took up meditation. And he actually calls meditation mental floss. He said the future is, he said, the way you brush and floss your teeth, dental floss. One day we're doing meditation the same way, mental floss. Now what happens with meditation? I'm glad you asked. So meditation is a state that actually disrupts the default mode network, which is your operating system of your brain. It's what's running in the background all the time. As soon as we stop talking, your brain is starting to engage. When you meditate or do DMT, ayahuasca, ibogaine, iboga, or some of those plant medicines that they've used in ancient cultures,
Sure.
that actually blocks it. Now this is a medicinal, non-drug way of going about it. But what it does is it actually blocks that, and you remain in a state of consciousness. Your brain is actually more active in a meditative state. It causes crosstalk between the hemispheres. It grows neural pathways and neural linkages. It places your brain into a different brain rhythm as well. So people are at what I call like a high beta or low gamma wave state, where the brain's doing this. And when you talk to them, they say my brain's like a runaway train, or like a runaway horse. And it just goes, and I can't stop it. Meditation then drives you into an alpha wave, a delta wave, or a theta wave, which is a longer trough rhythm. The funny thing is, when you meet someone who can't sleep at night, ask them this simple question: does your mind race? And they will say yes. And you can simply say to them, your brain is in a rhythm that's not conducive to sleeping. You're trying to solve problems when you should be sleeping. And as long as you're trying to solve problems, you will never fall asleep. Your brain has to go from an alpha to a delta to a theta. You have to reach an alpha state before you get there. So meditation drives you into those states, creates the connections, it grows your hippocampus, your memory center, shrinks the amygdala, your fear center, and actually begins to grow better neural pathways within your body. But what also happens is you kind of go into the state of peace and calm. So when you're meditating, you don't breathe as much. Your metabolic rate begins to kind of regulate and slow. There are sometimes when I meditate where I don't breathe for a minute and a half.
Really?
Really.
And that's sustainable?
That's sustainable. You look at like the Indian yogis, and oftentimes they'll go into a state. Now what's really fascinating, some of these guys will be put in medical facilities with no food or water, and they'll survive for weeks without any...
With no water?
No water.
Wow.
And Google that, look up some YouTube videos on it. They put them in these clinical situations, clinical settings, because they don't understand how it's happening.
Yeah, that's really fantastic.
Have you ever heard of Tummo before? T-U-M-M-O.
I don't think so.
Tummo is a Buddhist practice and you'll see the Dalai. I'm not a Buddhist, but I like a lot of the principles. The Dalai Lama is very free for testing, Buddhism and some of the principles. So Tummo is basically where they'll use meditation to affect physiology of the body. I put you in a freezing cold room, almost like Wim Hof.
Right.
I put you in a freezing cold room, and through your own focused mind, you will start to sweat. And that's what they do with Tummo. They will focus their mind to actually generate heat.
The power of the mind.
And that's what Wim Hof is doing, the Iceman, if you've ever heard of Wim Hof before.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we talk about the placebo effect.
One of my favorite words.
Right, because it makes it seem like it's an accident. But why aren't we tapping into it? So you come in to see me and I say, there's no reason why you can't heal. No reason at all. And if you begin to shift your mental processes and feed your body and give it what it needs, your body will heal.
Yeah.
One analogy I love to do with patients is, if I were to bonk you on the head and put you on an airplane to some far off distant island with your favorite people, and organic food and everything like that, how do you think you'd feel in a few months? Right. Great. Take you away from the stressful job, take you away from the stressful environment. So if we can just visualize that and know that that's the truth, then we know the environment's having a greater impact than we can even imagine.
And go to that reality.
Go to that reality,
yeah.
Even for a moment.
I think this is real, I wanted to go back to something that I think is really important, because I think that in order to create consciously, in order to do anything, I think having a clear mind and being able to meditate, I think that that's really huge. It's been instrumental in my ability to create anything in my life. But I think that a lot of people get discouraged because they think that, well, I can't clear my mind. As you're saying, their mind is just racing and say, I can't clear my mind. I've got so I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to try. So whenever you said it really I think is important to maybe talk about, whenever you said that your mind is more active whenever you're meditating.
In many respects, yes. Yes, and the thing about it is, I don't like when people say this, but I'm going to say it. If I can do it, you can do it. I had panic attacks and anxiety for 15 years, on and off. At the age of 30, I could not leave my house. I could not drive a car. I could not get on an airplane. I could not speak in front of a group. I could not do anything. Because phobias are born from this belief that as long as I have this or avoid that, I'm safe. And so I started developing phobias to everything. So to go through the phobias, I had to slay these imaginary dragons within my life. But meditation was something that was instrumental in my healing because I didn't have to think and solve anything. People think that by thinking they're going to solve, but living in the computer processor is not living in the heart. It's not living in existence. It's projecting you in the past or the future. So I read that book, the seminal work from Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now.
Of course. Yes.
And I read it and I reread it and I dog-eared it and I highlighted it. And he said, this is a quote from Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching, but if you're focused on the past, you're depressed. If you're focused on the future, you're anxious. And if you're living in the present moment, you're content. I realized I would never actually be content unless I found a way towards the present moment. And the best time to do that is when you can't shut your mind off. That is the best time to do it.
Can you explain that?
Yes, because we're always waiting for the perfect time to do something. But there will never be a perfect time because your environment and your surroundings will not change until your internal world changes. So I tell patients all the time, your external world is a reflection of your internal world. Change your internal world and your external world will change.
That's awesome, and that's actually something that I wanted to kind of touch on, because at Soul Ascension we're constantly talking about the emotional causes of even physical pains, and we've got the book Messages from the Body when it correlates certain physical ailments with emotional stresses. And so I wanted to ask you, do you feel like there's emotional undertones or emotional causes of physical pain? Somebody comes in for your back issues. Do you go immediately to treating that, or do you say, all right, what are the causes? You know, why are you actually, you're not feeling supported because your back is hurting, or anything
That's
like
actually
that?
a really good point right there. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're still in my thunder here. Yeah, no, that's absolutely the case. And what they train you for in school, to be fair, in chiropractic school, they do say thoughts, traumas, and toxins, but then when they put you in a room with a patient, you are basically a hammer that hammers the joints back into place. And some chiropractors work more divergently, considering other facets, but you are the best type of healer when you are not an archetype. When I'm not trying to be a chiropractor, I'm the best, because I can be a therapist, I need to be a therapist. I can be a chiropractor, I need to be a chiropractor.
Whatever you need to be.
Whatever the situation dictates, I become a reflection on what's needed in that moment. But with to speak to your point, I believe that at least 70 or 80% of what's going on with people is mental, emotional, psychospiritual.
70 to 80%.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And where I started to see this was I started to see little breadcrumbs along the way. I had a patient, she has since passed, she was one of my favorite people. I got to deliver her eulogy when she passed, and it was a real honor.
Wow.
But she was 88 years old, and she was estranged from her daughter. And she was developing diverticulitis, which is an inflammation of the pouches within the small intestine, or the large intestine. So she kept on getting this inflammation within her large intestine, right? And something told me that the way they were treating medically was not the way to go. Not to second guess them, but I just didn't feel like it was right. So I sat across from her and I said, Dee, what's happening in your life right now? No one's asked her that question. And she just started to sob and she said, I've got 3 daughters and one of them is an alcoholic. And we're estranged. And I'm getting older and I've got cancer. And I have to write my will, and I have to write her out of my will. Because we don't know where she's at right now. And she won't return my phone calls or my letters. Now, do you think that she needed an adjustment or a pill? Or do you think that she needed understanding and care and she was going through something?
The latter for sure.
Yeah. So when someone has low back pain, I say, are you having financial issues? Have you had a recent move? Are you unsupported? What's going on from that perspective? If someone's having issues within here, I say, are you having a hard time exerting your will in the world? I made a move recently to different offices because I didn't feel like I was able to exert my will upon the world.
Wow.
And I felt a stabbing sensation within my stomach, which my friend thought was pancreatitis. But no, it wasn't that at all. When I moved to my new office, I went away because I stepped into my own authority.
Definitely causal right there.
Yeah. I had a patient who had neck surgery recently, and she doesn't want to be on medication anymore. So she talks like this because she lost her voice. From the surgery, they nicked a nerve, and they caused her to lose her voice. But her voice came back when she was talking about getting off the medication. So when we're having a conversation about
her voice came back when she was talking about getting off the medication.
Yes.
Okay.
It comes, to be fair, it comes and goes. But when she talks about things that are disempowering, it goes. When she talks about things that are empowering, it comes.
But this is from a physical thing that happened, but from the emotional, she can overcome that in order to still speak when she's talking about something that's more expansive.
Do you ever see a light bulb that isn't plugged in properly and how it flickers?
Okay.
And how you turn it a quarter turn and all of a sudden it's getting electrical?
Right.
So we are an electromagnetic field of energy moving. We are basically walking batteries with sodium and potassium pumps moving through our cells. And I had a Parkinson's patient, kind of to your point, years ago, where he's just shaking like this. They call this fasciculation. I would put something in his field, like fish oil, which is very good for regenerating nerve tissue and things like that, and helping to support, not to treat or diagnose illness, but to support that state. And when I would do that, his hand would shake like this. When I would put something within his field that would make it worse, his hand would shake like this. All right? We're responding to things all the time. There's something called the neuroleptic response, where I can put something on your tongue. Neuroleptic.
Okay.
Neuro meaning brain, leptic meaning tongue, where I can put something on your tongue. And I can take your pulse before I do so. I can put an agent, a food on your tongue. I can take your pulse again about 10 seconds later. And your pulse will go up 4 points or down 4 points if you're having a reaction to it. It's that instantaneous.
Wow.
You walk into a room and you just feel something. We're responding to our environment all the time.
All the time.
And when someone is talking about something that they're uncomfortable about, pay attention to their voice. It will start to quake and quiver. I used to have an issue with speaking in front of people. And I have a friend that had that issue, and we're talking about this. I didn't like to confront those. So I was talking about confrontation. When I was talking about confrontation, my voice was cracking. I just felt like somebody was strangling me. Even going back, I kind of feel that. And then when we were talking about talking in public, because he didn't have an issue with confrontation, he loved confrontation, but when we were talking about talking in public, his voice started to do the same thing my voice was doing. So you can pick up on people's weaknesses based upon how they're communicating.
Well, you've clearly overcome that. How do you think that you're able to do that?
every imaginary dragon in your life you have to slay, and you do so by embracing and moving through it. There's this belief, I think, that we're, in a way, metaphorically speaking, driving a car and there's like a monster chasing us. And that as long as we drive away from it, we're safe. I welcome the monster. I want it to get to me. I want to feel it. Because I'm bigger than the monster. And that's what empowerment is.
And you feel like once you encounter the monster and you slay it, or however you, whatever terminology you use, then you can use that experience to sort of elevate your life. And it's not there anymore. It's not that ominous thing that's in your face.
Right. So what does a healer do then? Opens up space. A sacred space where people feel like they can be themselves without judgment. They feel that they're safe to heal. And they feel that they are almost like in a mother's embrace. They feel like they are taken care of. And in that environment, they can overcome anything. So oftentimes what the healer does is just open up a space for the person to be vulnerable, to express this thing that scares them. And if they can express that in a safe, and they can integrate with it, they don't have to run away from it anymore. It actually merges with them, they learn the lesson, and they overcome it.
And then all that, the fight or flight sort of energy that you're using to run away from that thing, then it frees that all up so that you can manifest consciously.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's where people are at right now, and that's why I try to get people towards meditation, because the epiphany I had was, people I was working on week after week, no matter what I did, they couldn't hold the state that they were in after I worked on them. So let's just say that they are like a lantern of light, and I've worked on them and their lantern is now brimming with light. But now the world is very dark, and it's pulling from that light. And they come back a week later diminished and dimmed. The healer then teaches them how to keep that light going all the time. So they don't have to dull their shine. So that's the essence of what we're doing. But with someone who's coming in more often than not, they don't know how to maintain that, and they're afraid. And in that fear state, they're vulnerable. And in that fight or flight state, they can't heal. And physiologically, they are pushing the gas pedal and the brake pedal at the same time, so they're burning through the resources and the nutrients and everything else they need.
Working against themselves the whole time.
Absolutely. But if you can get them into a state of placidity and peace and calm and equanimity and all that good stuff, you can actually give them the ability to heal. But then I would actually ask more rhetorically, is healing a state of being? Or is it a pill? Like when I talk to people, I say, I don't have a bottle on my shelf that says healing. If anything, the supplements I have allow that state to remain, allow that shine to remain longer. They're just an altered state device that allows you to maintain that openness. But ultimately what we're trying to do is teach people a way to actually maintain that for a long distance period of time. But as long as they're in the mental state of sickness, I'm sick, I'm broken, I'm chronic fatigue, they're never going to heal.
That's beautiful, and this is a lot of amazing information, and I'm going to insist that we have you back so that we can talk more. But I'd like to move on just a little bit. So as I'm preparing for this interview, I'm doing some research, and I was on your site, and I was looking at the services, and there's lots of things here that are pretty commonplace. We understand nutrition, supplementation, and those kind of things. But there's a couple of things on here that I have no idea what they were, and I was wondering if you might be able to shed some light about your practice and things that go on at Access. And so one of the things that came up was body code. Body code.
Yeah. So body code is a technique of muscle testing.
Okay.
And you're basically asking the body what may be going on with it, and then working along acupuncture meridians on the back to actually help to free the body of that burden. So you can check for emotions. You can check for different challenges within the body. Taking a step further, Nikola Tesla said if you want to think of the universe, think of it in terms of energy and frequency.
Right.
If you want to look on a quantum level, we're basically vibrating packets of light. So we're not even if you've ever seen like a molecule, I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times, proton, neutron, and electron dancing around in empty space. This table is empty space, but it's actually vibrating at such a level that I can't break through it. So there's an illusion of solidity, and there's this illusion of things remaining, like an emotional state being something that happened to us, but not really something that is embedded within us. Like how a chicken is marinated before you cook it. It becomes marinated in that feeling. So what's crazy is with body code, I've seen immense benefit with people. I still use that with patients, but I don't use it quite as often because now we're still labeling and identifying and saying I'm trying to pick this and pick that. So there is benefit to it. There's a lot of virtue. I do that with patients when I feel necessary.
Cool.
And I've had a lot of benefit using it.
Awesome.
But it's also recognizing that crick in the neck that no chiropractor or massage therapist or host could take care of might be abuse experience as a child, or a job that they really don't like, or a spouse that is not supportive, or you know, or allergy season, you know, or something else going on that may not have even been considered.
Man, that's so exciting to me. It's enthralling that you can so distinctly tie physical stuff back to certain incidents or certain emotions.
Most definitely, most definitely.
That's awesome.
Well, like with the patient who comes in with recurrent low back pain, and not to go really dark and scary with you guys for a second, but patients that have been sexually abused as children, oftentimes are adults that come in with pelvic issues. And you think about that, the trauma's remained. It's like, metaphorically speaking, it's like somebody at a young age took graffiti and graffiti all over this beautiful structure and defaced it.
And you're storing that in their
You're
bodies.
storing it there, yes. Yes. There's been many times where I've worked on patients with those areas, and when they have a major release or healing event, they will sob on the table and they will tell you what happened. And that is the most immense and beautiful thing you'll ever experience.
Oh, I can imagine. Sounds like an amazing release.
Yes.
Okay, so pranic healing.
Pranic healing.
What does that do?
What's funny is no one ever pronounces, you did, because you know what that is, but most patients will come in and they'll say, I would like more of that chronic healing. And that either sounds like Dr. Dre is getting involved, or it makes it seem like, oh man, I just keep on chronically getting healed. This is terrible.
I love
it just won't
the
go
Dr.
away.
Dre reference. That's awesome.
I'm a child of the 90s.
Yeah,
I had that album.
Yeah, me too. It was probably one of my first ones.
That was my Actus edition in my house. My mom was furious when she heard it blasting from my stereo in the morning. She was like, I hear him saying these words. Like, you just don't get it. You don't know. I'm keeping it real, Mom. I'm keeping it real. I'm keeping it OG.
I love that.
But what are we talking about? Chronic healing. So go down to your local distributor. You know, they're on every street corner. Ask them for the chronic healing.
Right.
The 20 sack, I believe, is what you'll have. Now, chronic healing. So this is where we get into the esoteric, and this is where I'm very, very guarded when I'm working with patients, because just because I'm here doesn't mean that they're here. So with patients, I think it's very important to meet them where they're at.
Okay, I love that.
And with chronic healing, it is a bit esoteric. But I'll tell people have been doing hands-on healing since ancient times. It's biblical. And when I work with people, it doesn't matter if they believe in it or not, they will feel something. Oftentimes, if I just put my hands on someone's back and hold it there for 30 seconds, their back loosens up more than if I would have tried to pound and physically force. The worst thing I can do is look at them as broken on the table and say they need to be fixed. So I put my hands and I just recognize their wholeness and the body softens. With pranic healing, you're basically like, this is how they'll even describe it, energetic janitorial services.
Yeah, okay, energetic janitorial, okay.
Absolutely.
Custodial.
So you've heard of chakras before. Chakra means wheel or vortice, but it actually aligns with nerve plexuses within the body. So you've got, for instance, the mesenteric plexus right here, which goes to your digestive system. You could also call this the solar plexus chakra, right? In ancient times, they called them chakras. Now we can call them plexuses if you want to. There's a scientific basis for it. Plexuses. It's a bundling of nerve fibers. So what will happen is, and this is where it gets very esoteric, is imagine that instead of working on a patient, I'm working on Pigpen from Peanuts, from Charlie Brown. And they have all this smog around their solar plexus. With pranic healing, I'll scoop the smog away, and it'll feel clearer. Now what does that mean to the patient? It means that they don't feel that heaviness anymore. Oftentimes when I'm working on that area, you'll hear the stomach gurgle and things start to move.
Really?
They'll describe feeling lighter. People don't even know what lightness means or is. They'll get off the table and they'll say, I just feel so much lighter right now. I feel like the burden is lifted. I have patients who come in and they say, I did not tell you this before I got on the table, but I was angry. I was sad. I was depressed. I feel really good right now. So pranic healing is one element I use where I'll work along the chakras or the nerve plexuses. I will clear those areas, as crazy as that sounds, and the person will feel relief. Now, but the proof is your own experience. So me telling you or anyone watching this, is meaningless unless you've actually experienced it yourself.
Okay, right.
And experiences are greatest. So somebody would have said that to me 15 or 20 years ago, I would have said, great, they're insane. I'm going to smile and walk away slowly.
Okay.
And that's how some people still feel. And that's where I want to honor them where they're at, because maybe they get there, maybe they don't.
I like that. Meeting people where they're, I think that's really huge, and I really appreciate that you're doing that. You're able to speak on that level.
Yeah. Can I kind of go on another brief?
Sure.
I know we're probably running short on time.
No, please.
But the thing is, it's all winking at us. It's all looking us right back in the eye. So I always tell patients, do you ever see the iconographic pictures of Christian saints or otherwise? Mm-hmm. How are they actually positioned? Like this. What are they doing? Why are they like this? Are they doing it because it was like the style of the time? Is this like West Side or something like that? What are they doing? Like, well, what was the purpose of that, right? You see like the halo over the head. Mm-hmm. Again, was it just kind of like a cool hat at the time? Was it like their beanie or something? No, what that is just an opening of the crown. And they were taking in light through their crown and moving it into their body. And
their hand position had something to do with that?
Yes. When they have their hand like this, they're actually drawing in from God or the heavens. Mm. And they're projecting out with their hands.
Wow.
That's exactly what's happening. And it's staring us right in the face. Mm. And people will even come in who are Christian, and I believe in the divinity of Christ as well. I believe as far as like living your life, I don't think there's a better way to live than actually following in those ways, because talk about somebody who loved all people and accepted all people and healed and rejected no one.
Definitely.
That's my kind of guy.
Yeah. That unity Christ consciousness is definitely something that we follow and adhere to. I mean,
absolutely.
I think that's phenomenal.
So I honor that when people say they're Christian. I honor that.
Sure.
But I also say you can't strip away the metaphysical side. Mm-hmm. And your saints are doing this. Why are they doing this? Why is light pouring in through their crown in all the pictures? Do you think it's just because it was like a random thing, just a passage? When I work on patients, I feel energized and alive. Mm-hmm. If it's coming from me, how is that possible? That's my point. People have to have their own experiences. But 15 years ago, I would have thought that was crazy. But when I rejected the system I was in, doors opened up for me, and I started seeing the world differently. And as a practitioner, that's what I want to do. It may not be that they see the world the way I see it, but I want to open up the door ever so slightly, at least, to get them to see possibilities of a different reality.
Awesome. What's your superpower?
Sarcasm.
Awesome. Okay.
It's also my first language.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah, no, my superpower is, I would say, compassion and empathy. The two most powerful words in the English language, when paired together, in my opinion, is me too. Because now there's no island, now there's an island of two people.
Definitely speak my language.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. We were talking about this a little bit before we started shooting. What's coming up? What's coming up next for you? What are you working on?
Everything's coming up.
Everything's coming up.
So, to keep it OG, I'm blowing up the spot.
Okay.
But
let's do it.
Yeah, but so one mission I've been telling people is listen to how you feel. If you feel like you're over-energizing something and it's exhausting you, stop doing it. If you say that you're busy in life, write down a list of what you're busy with, and then begin to excise those things that you're busy, and make room for the things that don't make you feel busy. No one's ever walked the beach before and said, I was so busy walking the beach, it was ridiculous. But since I've been on my path, everything has kind of come down my way. My room door in my office is named Providence. We named our rooms, I named it Providence because when you're on the path, all is provided for you. So I have an office where I have events, and I just want to empower people and teach people. And my intention this week was to get a couple new instructors to teach things. Monday, I got a couple new instructors. So we have sound healing, I have meditation, guided meditation, I have soon to be a child's meditation for children because they need to learn as well. So they have a tool. No one has any tool to deal with stress, they just bury it inside them. NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, hypnosis, nutritional classes. I do lab testing, nutrition, and all sorts of things with patients too, which we're going to talk about, but covering all grounds with people. And we have yoga instructors, yoga classes, and things like that too. So the thing is, make it easy for people, give it to people in a way that they can have every tool they need within one place, and then be able to direct them. Because I can't do all things for all people, but there's many different teachers, and if we can call the teachers together and create a community of teachers, then we can actually begin to heal the community and become and witness that wholeness again. And that's what I've been doing through my space. But that's what we're doing through your space as well. And I said before, these are nodes.
Right.
We're all connecting together, and we're helping people to make this shift towards self-empowerment and better patient care and really just living healthy and happy lives. Because right now, as a collectiveness, as a people, we're not happy, we're not joyous, and we're waiting for that day to come. But we don't have to wait, we can step into it now.
So glad to be able to collaborate with you, and our missions are very resonant, and I love that you're talking about just different nodes, because I really feel like we're sort of casting this web over the entire earth and providing that platform for anybody who's ready. You know what I'm saying? Just to maybe be that platform of support for people as we're waking up and coming out of this slumber.
Do you ever hear with I learned transcendental meditation? That's one form I learned, and there's no perfect form, so whatever form you feel drawn to is perfectly fine. But they talked about if you get 10% of the population meditating, it'll drive down violent crime by 50%. Have you heard that before?
That's incredible.
Yeah, they've done that in Washington D.C. They've done it all throughout the world.
I have heard of people doing that.
Now, why is that? Why is that? It's because when you get people together, it creates a mob mentality. A mob mentality of peace is actually meditation with groups of people around, and it actually creates a potentiated field. It's why they say when two or more gather in my name, in the Christian perspective, the healing can actually commence. So when you get people together and they're creating that connection, that field around them, you develop mob mentality, but you invert it towards a peaceful end. But as long as we tune into the news and become factionalized and don't recognize our shared humanity between all of us, we will continue to live in a fear state. And we'll continue to see division and strife, and we'll continue to live in a very miserable world.
I love that. So it kind of alludes to a term that I've been hearing recently, and it's the counterpart to paranoia is pronoia. And that seems it seems to be what you're describing there, and I really love that. I'm so upset that we have to start wrapping up. Real quick, was there anything, any questions that you guys had? Good to go? They're like, so much, we've been learning so much.
We can't see right now on the film is actually just brain matter everywhere. It's my head's exploded.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a scene out of Pulp Fiction. I'm really sorry.
No, it was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, awesome. Well, before I ask the last question, where can people find you online?
I'm everywhere.
You're everywhere.
And I'm nowhere. Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah, that is.
I'm on the World Wide Web. I'm on the World Wide Web. If you get on your CompuServe and you get on your T9 or what is it, the little modem.
We have dial-up.
We have dial-up?
Yeah.
Good. So. Yeah. Good. My website is axiscw.com. I'm on a little startup website as well called Facebook. You can find me. Yeah. Axis Chiropractic and Wellness is my office. But we're really a collective of practitioners just looking to help people to find their way. And really, I have no desire to be wealthy beyond measure or anything. When I was that sick kid, I wanted someone to help me. And then when you take your sickness and you turn it into healing, there's an alchemical thing that happens, where all of a sudden all the suffering you experienced was for a purpose. So every person I've been able to help has made any suffering I've experienced worthwhile. So really it's just about, I don't care if people spend $5 in my office or none at all, and they just got something from watching this video or coming to meditation for free. I want to see the world change, and I want to see it change now.
I love that. I'm right on board with you. I think my mission, my goal with my life is I believe that we can bring universal absolute happiness and freedom to the world. And I think that we can do it when I think it's going to be small shifts. So it's going to be people like you that are just sharing their light in the world. And I want to, thank you.
Both showing up and being authentic.
Absolutely.
And giving people freedom to be authentic themselves.
Awesome. That's perfect. My final question is, what's your idea of a fully ascended life?
I would say an idea of a fully ascended life is actually living from a place of joy. So I went to a seminar years ago, and the practitioner said, I don't want happiness. I reject happiness. Pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
But hap comes from the word hap, which means to happen. Happiness is an accident. Happiness is something you stumble upon. Joy requires no condition whatsoever. A fully ascended life is a state of living in joy. It's actually not meditating for an hour a day or going to church for an hour a week. It's actually living that experience of having gone to church and carrying that all throughout your week with you. It's carrying that feeling of meditation into everything you do. That's a fully ascended life.
I love that.
But then what you do is you're a lantern that is completely brimming with light. And you walk into a space and everyone else feels it too. And it gives them the ability to actually step into that light themselves and actually recognize that. The life of the party is the life of the party because they're shifting everyone's consciousness within that state. That's why the life of the party is the life of the party. When they leave, the life leaves. It's because they brought a state of consciousness within that realm that is causing and affecting everyone else around them. So a fully ascended life is actually living in a place of joy.
That's awesome.
and actually walking as though you're in a constant state of meditation, communing with the divine.
I love that. That's a great answer. And, you know, just researching you and just talking to people around, I'm just seeing the influence of your light and your courage to be able to face the challenges in the way that you know is the way to do it, and your just willingness to share that with everybody and to really step into your mission as a healer, even though you don't call yourself that.
Well, I was corrected once. I went to this store and I was talking to this lady, and she said, she didn't know me or anything, but she was one of those people who doesn't look at you straight on, you know, almost like a seer or something like that, like she was looking off in the nether distance.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, don't refer to your patients as patients.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting spooked out. Don't refer to your patients as patients.
Mm-hmm.
And don't call yourself a healer. So I had a patient who bought me a healer sign in my room, and I had it proudly displayed, but it never felt right to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to my office that day and I took away the ER, and now my room just says heal. Patient, heal thyself.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's perfect, and we're gonna have you back for sure. Like I'm gonna.
I have nothing else to say.
That's it. We're done.
Yes, I have nothing else to say.
Well, guys, if you were paying attention, then I'm sure you got plenty of information and a lot of actionable stuff that you can do immediately to be able to ascend your life and to be able to be healthy and show up authentically for yourself. If you haven't already dived into this man's world, you're crazy, whether you're in the Kansas City area or not. Just the buzz of his message is all around. You're always going to be able to see the influence of it everywhere. It's one of the first people that I heard about, and you're definitely going to want to check out Access Chiropractic and the things that they've got going up there. Just phenomenal. We're going to be doing lots of partnerships with them, and we're really thankful for that. So guys, just remember to always be reaching for your highest goals and help us bridge the gap to the infinite. So once again, thanks a lot so much, man. Really appreciate it. I really appreciate that. So much great information coming through.